And welcome to another episode of the SD4L show. Matt, are you ready to continue once again talking about the never-ending topic of the MSU basketball hoops offseason?
Yeah, JT. Let's get it popping, man. Woo!
Man, absolutely electric over here.
Let's go.
Let's dive in. Matt Sheehan, Justin Thind, we are here to talk once again about MSU Hoops basketball's offseason, also some football at the beginning here. Before we do that, Matt, I must ask, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday, coming to you live?
That's right. I'm sensational. Do you know what would make me just even happier, though, JT? Two things. One, if people commented, subscribed. Yes. Just all that good stuff. Get the algorithm pumping. And number two, if I can get your answer of how you're doing, JT, because no one ever asks you anything. You just go through your whole week, Wednesday to Wednesday, with no one ever saying, hey, dude, how you doing? But let me be the first to do it. How you doing, man?
Today, Matt, the answer is guilty. I feel guilty for once again abdicating the to-do list of writing about MSU football, writing about the two deep.
Sure.
I sat down, was going to write all about every single position on offense and defense, and then a separate article for portal needs before the portal opens in a couple weeks. And then the discourse starts. Trey Townson entering the portal.
Yes.
And then further discourse continues on Mark Montgomery's departure and possible candidates. And then my mind is fully into basketball. And the basketball mode just can't be turned off, it seems like. So
all good.
A couple articles put off for another week. We are back to diving into candidates, diving into more portal edition guys. Obviously, there's a dead period from Thursday to Thursday in basketball. Well, I guess that's not obvious. I shouldn't say obviously. Most people shouldn't know that. And then and then I guess it'll be again more basketball coverage next week when hopefully they have some guys scheduled for OVs. But Matt, what we can do, what is in our hands, is we can start this podcast talking a little football before we hop into basketball.
We can, because yes, it has been a lot of hoops talk on this show, but over the last few days, dare I say week, there's been some media availability with Coach Jonathan Smith, Coach Maholchek, the offensive line coach, and a few players too. So look, you're never going to get like a ton in media availability and press conferences, but you could always get little nuggets, or 'tis a season. Jelly beans. You can get some jelly beans of knowledge there. Anything that really stuck out to you in the last few quotes, press quips, or anything that really made you arch an eyebrow here as it pertains to football?
Kind of just an aside of, it wasn't the last few media availability sessions, but earlier than that, when Jonathan Smith was asked about who the starting quarterback was going to be, and he was just like, oh, it's going to be a heavy upset if it's not Aiden Childs. Just very, very, very refreshing to hear. Just, I am pro kind of competitive advantage and not like tipping your hand or things like that. I'm all for that.
Yes.
When somebody is out for the entire season, though, and it's like week 3, and you won't say that like, what are you going to gain if your week 4 and 5 opponents like don't know he's out for the year? Eventually, it's going to catch on. Like, there's little things like that, and I guess maybe last year Tucker couldn't really have talked about the quarterback battle because kind of was close. But man, there were so many things where everyone knew how it was going to play out, and it just was still kept secret.
I agree heavily. And I was a strong advocate of it even when Mel Tucker was here. Like, he didn't have a depth chart and people were getting a little annoyed about that. But no, why would you offer up any information that could give any advantage away? Fine. But yes, just like you said, if it's a thing where it's like a Aiden Childs versus the field situation, it is a clear-cut winner. Or even last year, like, you could see a guy lose both of his legs in the same game, and then it'd be this, he's just a little sore. We'll see when he's back. Like, no, he's never walking again. Like, we can be honest about some very, very obvious things here. So, again, there is a balance between competitive advantage and also just shooting people straight. And I think Jonathan Smith is going to be on the more straight shooter side, but at the same time, it isn't like he's been giving away a ton more in his media availability.
And I do want to ask you what your takeaway is, but I guess just finishing up kind of two other things I had on my list here. Hearing Coach M talk, Coach Michalczyk, the offensive line coach. See, I thought he was going to come off as more of like a fiery, like just football guy type of thing. And I obviously had no doubts about his coaching abilities, but I thought like, hey, how is he going to be as a recruiter? Like, it's one thing taking a walk on Tanner Miller and not having to beat out any other schools and kind of just taking him and people trusting you because you're a football guy and stuff like that. But hearing him talk, he just seems like a very, very calm, well-natured guy, just a positive guy that likes ball. Now, he's not talking like 100 miles an hour like Scotty Hazelton and some other football guys kind of talk, where you also get that vibe. But he's just somebody that you feel like you can sit around and have a nice long discussion about and really resonates with you. So I kind of saw a different side from him than I was expecting, and that was good to see that he kind of has both sides to him.
Came in hot with a fun fact too that his mom is a grad of Michigan State. Who knew? Like, quite literally, who knew? I don't think anyone on the beat or anyone in this fan base even knew that, but he just dropped that little nugget during the media availability, which I thought was nice. Like, just like you said, wholesome guy. He seems Midwest born and bred,
right?
But he grew up in the West Coast. But nevertheless, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And we should add that he said he had never been to MSU before, and his mom's no longer with him, so he can't really kind of share that moment with her and talk about him. But yes, you are correct. That tidbit was very cool. I don't think anyone knew, and that was awesome. Matt, what about you? What takeaways did you take away?
I was wondering what they would do about the tackling in the spring, because last year with the last regime, they really took a step back from hitting physicality in spring, which again, I agreed with, because the spring before that, JT, if you remember, my God, they almost had me and you playing offensive line during scout team. Like things were dire. You want to get into summer healthy so you could start your fall healthy. How crazy is that for thinking? So yes, that's what they did last year. I was wondering if it was going to be more the same this year. Certainly seems like it. Jonathan Smith said as much, that they really haven't been doing a lot of tackling, if any, so far in the spring. They work on form, they work on wrapping up, but his words were, we want to keep these guys off the ground as much as possible. Now, he said by the end of the spring session, as we get closer to April 20th, there will be some live tackling, because you can't just go the whole session without it. You can't cold quit it, but still, I thought that was interesting. So it's not like a position battle necessarily. It's just, okay, what parameters are you taking to make sure that everyone's going to get into these summer months healthy here? I also thought it was pretty interesting and pretty nice, too, that he added that Aiden Childs. Not only is he more comfortable in the system in year two, not only is he more poised, but also has gained 20 pounds since last year, too. So obviously, look, all of us watching this show, we're expecting big things from Aiden Childs. And look, physicality-wise and also mentality, it seems like things are in a good spot right there. So that's the takeaways.
I agree. Yeah. And it just seems like, I know, like, the cool thing is like every single thing that Mel did, people retroactively want to point and laugh and all that stuff. But it does. And I think a lot of people said this, at least when he's here, so I don't think it falls under that category. But like, just hearing Jonathan Smith talk about like just practices and stuff, he kind of just lights up when he talks about it. Like, you can truly tell that he loves the game. Now, that's not to say that Mel didn't love the game, but his priority, or it naturally just didn't show that way in front of the media. I think he was guarded and things of that nature. Whereas like Jonathan Smith, like, he's giddy about it. He's not talking in kind of like this lively kind of way, but like you can just see the way that he just gravitates to football, gravitates to coaching, and just seems like that player's coach that everyone gravitates to. And I know for a fact, just like talking behind the scenes to people, a lot more hands-on in terms of quarterback development. That's this staff. And other positions like tight end and stuff like that, rave reviews from kind of how the staff handles their business. So all good stuff so far, but that usually is how it goes before a single loss is recorded with a new staff. But
everyone is undefeated in the offseason, JT, especially yours truly, the Michigan State Spartans. I also want to add one more thing too. He was asked about receivers, who's making plays out there. By name, he rattled off three guys: Antonio Gates Jr., Montori Foster, which shouldn't surprise anyone. He's the leading receiver from last year. And Cadillac Brown, that's right. Alante Brown also got a shout out too. So as we're looking for a third receiver, since the TJ Sheffield thing did not work out, you're wondering, is it going to be Gates Jr.? Is it going to be Nick Marsh as a true freshman? All right, that's right. Cadillac Brown still hanging around and, well, still making plays in practice, which is nice to see. So obviously we'll keep our eye on that. I still imagine that they'll target a wide receiver in the portal when it reopens.
Yes, definitely.
First, but again, we'll see. If they don't nab one, then, well, that is your stable that you got right there. So there it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if they don't go ahead and grab one in the portal here the next month. So I guess we'll see what kind of level of talent there is. Can't magically, well, I mean, I guess you very illegally could magically make someone enter the portal, but mostly the talent is what it is that you're working with, and the most you can do is try to maximize it. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if they don't have some portal targets at receiver for sure. Yeah, we'll dive more into that. Like I said, I really want to get my 2 deep published, and then after that I'll publish kind of a portal need, since that'll naturally flow off of there, and we'll dive more into that here in the coming weeks or so. But Matt, it is time to talk about 2 developments that we foreshadowed earlier. One, kind of the Trey Townson dialogue and the portal and all that, and how that's progressing. The other, the vacancy left by Coach Mark Montgomery's departure to University of Detroit Mercy. Let us start with Monty. So from my understanding, Coach Montgomery kind of was responsible for a lot of the sets that were ran on offense. That was his primary objective. Was also kind of the wings kind of coach. He very experienced, been here for 4 years, I think. Was very good at recruiting, even more so primarily than anything else, I would say. Very good at in-depth scouting. Obviously a big loss in terms of just what he did in game with basically calling the offense, essentially. So now you're kind of looking at Coach Thomas Kelly working with the guards, being a mentorship guy, being the relatability guy for sure in terms of like the young recruiting energy. And then Doug Wojcik, who mostly responsible for the rotations and the centers. So there's a hole there. Discussion on kind of how it would be best to fill that role. My personal opinion is to go ahead and get somebody that is at least semi-young or relatable. And Coach Izzo talked about that a little bit in an interview with Jack Ebling today. And he mentioned that a lot of staffs around the country are looking to get younger. He didn't say he's blindly going to go ahead and do that, but he said that that's something that he's observed. And then he added he has 5 to 7 candidates. We'll talk about candidates in a second, but just wrapping up kind of on the staff, my opinion is they could go ahead and probably get someone that is more naturally gravitated towards coaching bigs. I don't know how long Coach Wojcik has done that. I don't know if he prefers to maybe move to wings or guards or something else. So, yeah, I would go get someone that is probably adept at coaching bigs, or I guess at the very least, just someone that's an ace recruiter, someone that just brings an added dimension that they don't have right now is how I would prioritize that. Matt, what are your overall thoughts on Coach Monty's departure? And then I guess we can dive into some candidates.
First thought is good luck. That's a project over there, man. So with that said, a lot of room to grow over there at U of D. Like you're talking about a low bar to set. Like you're already going to come out better than the last guy. Yeah, unless something insane happens over there in Detroit. But yeah, I mean, look, it was long said that Izzo was a strong advocate for him. That's what Tony Paul of the Detroit News reported time after time, is that Izzo is in the ears of the U of D brass to try to make this happen. So yeah, I mean, definitely no sour grapes. I don't think there's any doubt if that was an issue. But yeah, just like you said, nothing groundbreaking from what I want for an assistant coach. Yeah, someone that could coach bigs or that is young or that is a strong recruiter here. So, again, it was nice that he talked about it with Jack Ebling on the drive, 5 to 7 candidates coming up, because I did wonder if it was just going to be as easy as an in-house thing of sliding John Borovich, the director of recruiting, over to that third chair. And that could still very well happen.
Right.
Because, hey, look, we've talked to John Borovich on the show. I mean, you talk young, you talk personable. Yeah, checks both of those boxes. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see not just where this goes, but how fast this will all wrap up here. So,
and I do know that Borovich's specialty, going back to his assistant coaching days, it was offense. So I wouldn't take him off the table. But one thing I would say, and I'm a big fan of John Borovich. He obviously grew up in the state. went to high school with Matt Ishbia, Michigan State
Gotcha.
guy through and through. Um, just great, very effective at recruiting and having those connections. But also in his current role, he kind of is the Swiss Army knife guy. He's
Right.
there on the sidelines on game day, coaching and practice. He kind of does it all. So the reason that I don't think that you necessarily need to put him in a different title is because his current title is pretty much perfect for him. A
Yeah.
guy that's a jack of all trades and that can already help in every single way. So I think what they have there is a great setup, and I'm pretty sure John is very happy in that role too. So
Gotcha.
I think it's a great spot, kind of where they have that. But like I said, like it's not out of the realm of possibility. Matt, do you have a particular name that jumps to the forefront of your mind for maybe who you would like to see fill this? I think I do.
Yeah.
So I guess if we have the same guy, I will let you go ahead and kick it off.
I don't think we do have the same guy because this
Mm,
isn't going to help the Bigs development whatsoever, unless my memory is fuzzy. Unless Tum Tum Nairn indeed did play center for Michigan State back in his day, but no, we're talking youth. I mean, the guy isn't even 30 yet. He's over at Bowling Green as an assistant
right.
coach. He's also worked, I believe, at Sunrise Christian Academy
Yes.
down in Kansas.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where he
Yes.
was at. And
Deep ties to
even when
Mocan Elite as well.
yeah,
The
exactly.
UIBL.
And even when he was a player here, this guy was a strong recruiter. I think he was credited with having a pretty good hand. It was it Jared Jackson's or Miles Bridges or some combination of both of those guys because
It was Miles Bridges' return for a second season that he pretty much was
there
a
we go.
huge part of.
Yeah, so again, I don't know how well he can develop, let's say a center, for example, but if that's going to be a role that someone on the staff already has, like Wojcik, for example, like maybe that is who you go with. Because I also think this too. I think a lot of people think this is that I don't think Izzo's going to go too far out of his coaching tree here. He's not going to go too far out of his family. So I don't think we're going to get a guy that he's never shook hands with before in his entire life, let
Right,
alone
right,
anyone
right,
that's
right.
outside the MSU tree. So that's my name. Fascinated to hear yours, though.
I think that that's a good idea. I want to put another spin on Tum Tum. In
Okay.
that case, like I don't know the intricacies of what he's responsible for at Bowling Green.
Right.
I don't know how often he's called sets and offenses. In that case, I would maybe promote Borovich to that assistant role and then bring Tum Tum in as the director of recruiting. That
I
can then
love
be
it.
the jack of all trades, and
I
that
love
sort
it.
of thing is what I
I
would do in
love it.
that case.
I love that. Let's go.
My
Run
name,
it
Matt.
up the flagpole. Let's go.
My name, Matt. I don't know how people would feel about this right on the surface, but I know that it's not out of left field, and I know that he is very respected by pretty much everyone that Coach Izzo respects, and that is Sadie Washington, the Michigan
Mm.
assistant, former associate head coach of Greg Campy's at Oakland. Was there when Drew Valentine was there, I believe. I think they had some overlap. I know those two are very close.
Yeah.
And basically, he was the ace recruiter for John Beeline for years. Was still there here in the recent years of the Juwan Howard era. He was working with Wings, but he was also credited as kind of being one of the chief developers for Mo Wagner. But at the end of the day, like I'm sure he's competent at developing bigs if you were to put him in that role and you moved Wojcik elsewhere if that's what he wants.
Yeah.
So I think in many ways he would be a guy that fills both the lively recruiting, ace recruiting need kind of guy, and he's respected by, like I said, Greg Campy, John Beeline, and Izzo respects both of those guys. And like you said, there is kind of a glass ceiling on who they will probably hire based on in the family. This is stepping probably as much outside of that as you could probably expect Izzo to do, whereas he's never worked with Sadie himself, but he obviously knows of him very well.
Yeah.
He is a Michigan State legacy, Lansing born and raised. So this is not as outlandish as it seems like of, oh, you're going to hire Beeline's a former guy who was there through the Juwan era too at Michigan State. You're out of your
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
I know for a fact that this is not outlandish and those ties are not deal breakers because he has so much else going for him in terms of his background and who he's respected by and the way he does things. And let's keep in mind, like they're not just going to go out there and hire somebody from, I don't know, Arkansas or Alabama
Right.
that
Yeah.
they're recruiting a certain way. Now it's legal these days, but still, like there's different priorities of what different assistants put first. He's going to want someone that did it kind of the right way. And we know at Beeline at Michigan, and they didn't really have the best on Island or Juwan Howard. So, he wasn't just getting kids to commit off of money and not building relationships. So I think he checks a lot of boxes in terms of what Izzo might be looking for.
You know my thoughts on Michigan. You know that I just don't think
Big fan.
I don't think the highest necessarily of them, and the
I
association with Wolverines and Spartans fan kind of makes me sick.
Let me
So
write
like
that down.
how, yeah, if you don't mind, I know I make it really confusing sometimes. So how could you bring this guy over after he spent so many years at Michigan? Well, it's easy. You see, you probably just pick him up with a car and then you drive him over here and you say, hey, here's your look, he's a good coach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I am a hater, but I'm also a lover of Michigan State. And if this guy could help the Spartans, which based on his pedigree, yeah, he can. Look, it's not like we're bringing a Fab Five member over, and I could break down that wall pretty easily here if that is the way Michigan State wants to go. Because just like you said, JT, this guy's a killer on the recruiting trail, man. He does okay for himself. So,
and Matt, as you said, we can hate with the absolute best of them. So if we are open to Sadie Washington, and some of you in the comments, hey, I don't know, maybe it's pretty unanimous and everyone's like, yeah, sounds great. Look at the resume. He's good. I don't know. Maybe there's no pushback. I don't know. I was kind of thinking,
I don't know either.
There have to be at least 20% of the people that are like, he wore the M on his chest for way too long.
Right.
He's part of that culture with Juwan. Like we can't have that here. If somebody's saying that, that's fine. I would say I would urge you to look at the resume, but also we are top tier haters. We hate when, as our good friend Carter Elliott said, we hate not only when it's convenient, but we hate when others choose not to hate anymore. And we are on par with our understanding of what this hire would kind of look like in terms of the impact. And I think I would be very confident that he is on the short list of 5 to 7 names that Coach Izzo is talking about. Now, that's not solid intel, and that's not me coding intel as an opinion. That's not something I have intel on, but I just know of Coach Izzo's opinion of Sadie Washington, not just from when Beeline was there, but as recent as a couple of years ago. I just I would be shocked if he wasn't one of the 5 to 7 names.
Now, speaking of heated rivalries and bringing someone over from the other side, there's been a long-standing Spartans versus Golden Grizzlies rivalry. If there's anything I hate more than the Wolverines, it's the Golden Grizzlies. I'm kidding, obviously. Trey Townson, he dove in the portal, which was a shock to me because, honestly, I thought he entered the portal 7 days ago. So I was floored when I saw this come across the timeline today on April 3rd. I was like, wait a minute. Anyway, that's how heavy the rumors were. But it is finally official. And it has been long rumored, if not straight up reported, that, Michigan and Michigan State are both going to be gunning after his services. JT, I got a big question here.
What is your question, Matt?
Thoughts?
Thoughts are abundant. Thoughts are copious.
Yeah. I know.
Okay. Would you like me to run through the negative and the positive?
I would love nothing more than that right now, JT, because this conversation could take us until whenever he decides to commit. Honestly, I could talk myself in circles around this thing. So let's go.
Matt, you and I have been fighting about this for 7 hours. This is the most divided we've ever been on any issue in the history.
It's not good. It's not healthy. Yeah, it's not good.
Okay. Here are the pros and here are the cons.
Okay.
The pros.
Yeah.
Let me read to you, Matt. His lines against high major teams throughout this 2023-2024 season.
They're good numbers.
Versus Ohio State, 19 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Versus Illinois, 17 points, 10 rebounds, no assists. Versus Xavier, 26 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Versus Michigan State against Malik Hall guarding him, 17 points, 4 rebounds. Versus Kentucky, 17, 12, and 4. Big bad Kentucky. Versus NC State, his final game with the Grizzlies, 30 points, 13 assists, 1 rebound. 30 points, 13 rebounds, 1 assist. Matt, this kid can play the game of basketball, the sport of basketball.
No question. Okay,
I guess a few more positives before I go to the other side of the coin.
Okay.
If Trey Townson was on this roster, he'd probably be a top 2 talent on the team.
Okay.
If Trey Townsend was, let's say, playing at Utah State or I don't know, Drexel or somewhere else, and he wasn't just the local kid that like fans and everyone had known, right? I don't believe the perception would be, oh, this is just settling for the local kid. This is settling for
Mm-hmm.
Greg Campy's buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's legitimate concerns about fit that I will go into. Just my first gut reaction were just alarming observations about the fit.
Yeah.
However, Matt, if you just look at a guy that just put up 30 and 13 against the Final Four team right after a double-double against Kentucky, and if that kid wasn't the safe local kid perception and he played somewhere else, people would be drooling over that kid and saying our Hall of Fame coach can figure out a way to use him. And I believe in my heart that would have been the discourse had he not played at Oakland. Now, Matt, with that said, he is a 4. He is purely a 4. He is 6'6". He is not a center. Defensively, he cannot play center. He is not a 3. He's a 37% shooter in his best year. It's on low volume, and I don't believe that he defensively can guard a 3. He is a 4.
Right.
He could play interior on offense, and Booker can stay at the 4 there, and that could appease Booker's agents at Clutch Sports. However, I don't think that him joining makes the roster as a whole, the construction, any better, because you have Xavier Booker going from a lot of minutes at the pretty much all of his minutes at the 4, I would say, to now having a good chunk of minutes at the 5. Where, like I said, offensively it could work. Offensively it could appease his volume that him and his people want. But defensively, Matt, the back cuts, he's just it's a mess. Obviously, he's gonna have a whole other offseason to work on it. Rebounding, it's mostly just him having reach. It's not him actually knowing how to box out. The strength isn't there. The effort's there, but the motor is not necessarily there. It's not because he's lazy. It's just it's hard to play at this level at a constant speed, especially when you're running back and forth in a Michigan State offense. There are so many flaws at the 5 if you put Booker there defensively that I don't know if you're coming out ahead in your expected points added theoretical discussion here.
Bang on.
Now, Matt, going back a little more onto the positives here. I look at opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost of moving Xavier Booker to the 5, bringing Townsend in at the 4 in terms of your rest of your portal ads? You obviously wouldn't bring in another center in that case. The other addition you would have would be at the wing, which we can talk about that later. If they don't still add another wing that can create offense, I'm not in favor of this move really at all. But more on that later. If you bring him in at the 4 and Booker moves to the 5, and I have all those issues about kind of the defense and the lack of physicality and the rebounding, right? The person you wouldn't be bringing in, that portal center, is pretty much also going to be weak in those categories. I have watched pretty much every center in the transfer portal. I've talked to DK, Spartan Hoops DK. He's watched pretty much every center in the portal. There is not a center in the portal that is a walking double-double. You are looking at someone that is either very limited offensively and is a pretty good rebounder in a Terrace Reed, who's still only averaging like 7-8 rebounds a game. Or you are looking at a guy like who's my favorite candidate in the portal, Brandon Garrison from Oklahoma State, who on a random night he can go for 15 offensively, but he had 2 rebounds against Cincinnati in like 25 minutes and 4 rebounds against BYU in 29 minutes. So if you're moving Booker to the 5 and you're losing the ability to bring in a center, the center you would have been bringing in really wouldn't have filled your need as a rebounder anyway, as a lockdown defender anyway. So that's where I come back to me mostly saying I would take Trey Townson if I'm Michigan State, as long as they take another wing. Because if you don't take Trey Townson and you bring in a 5, that 5 is not going to be perfect or really even well-rounded enough to then say Booker and this new 5 are going to be good enough interior rebounding toughness-wise anyway. Now I will let you talk, Matt.
No, that was all fantastic stuff. No question. I'll go more into the center thing, like maybe later if I even remember. Quite frankly, if anyone cares. My thing, if I can make a pie chart right now,
yes,
the world's smallest sliver, it just looks like a line on my pie chart, is Trey Townson himself being the problem. Honestly, I don't really care that he's only 6'6". Okay, I don't care about any of his inefficiencies because, quite frankly, he doesn't have a lot of them. He is a very, very good player. I want to make that as crystal clear as possible. Outstanding player. The rest of the pie chart as to why I'm a little reluctant on this move is Michigan State's problems. The fit my goodness gracious, isn't there, especially when you only have one scholarship as things stand right now, and that is should AJ Hoggard go into the portal if he does or remembers to, or I don't know. Whole thing's kind of weird right there. If AJ Hoggard goes to the portal like many of us expect, that's your one scholarship. No one else is leaving. You need two needs. You need the center. You need the big wing. And I'm going to mention this again on the drive with Jack Ebling. Izzo only named a shooting wing. So that is where his main emphasis is right now, is that he wants a wing. So again, we'll have the center conversation later, maybe not. But Trey Townsend, him coming here, that doesn't solve either of those problems. If anything, that kind of muddies it because, hey, you have two guys that can play the 4. You have Xavier Booker. You have Cohen Carr. Okay. He comes in. Now that log jams the 4, Cohen Carr slides back up to the 3. I don't necessarily think he's the 3, especially offensively. No. And then Booker goes back down to the 5. And yes, sure, you can make it work with the space on offense, but man, that defense, I'm not sure if we're getting a whole lot better because I'm looking at who was on this team going into the offseason and then who would still be on it. You are taking away Tyson Walker. That is a big dismissal from this team. You're also taking away Malik Hall. Just because you're plugging in a Trey Townson in for that Malik Hall, I don't think in the grand scheme of things makes you much better because you're going to be limiting what Xavier Booker can truly do. You're also going to limit what Cohen Carr can do at his position. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. Again, I'll say it again to make it even clearer if anyone's joining late year. Trey Townson, incredible basketball player. If this was a situation where we had 5 scholarship openings, my God, pick up the phone and kidnap him and get him to East Lansing right now as fast as you humanly can. But the fact that right now you only have one spot, you got to use it on something that you actually really need. You don't need a 4 right now. You need a portal wing.
Yeah. I think, Matt, that if they go ahead and only add Trey Townsend, I'm with you. However, I think if they go ahead and they add Trey Townsend and the understanding is Xavier, you'll get all the power forward looks on offense you need, but defensively R5, you're going to be R5. Like Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler are not going to be starting in addition to you, or Midas Sissoko. Like that's just not going to be the thing. I think one of those guys leave. And then I think you are at 2. And then I think you do get the shooting wing. So
in that case, then fine.
Right.
I'm all in then. Right. I'm all in if it's Townsend plus a wing, then okay, great. Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So we're pretty much on the same page there. I think you have to go get a shooting wing. And like you mentioned on the Jack Ebling interview, Izzo did say word for word, we have a need for a big wing that can shoot it. Not that can score it, that can shoot it.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily Trey Townsend. So does that mean they're just not even interested in Trey Townsend? I don't know necessarily about that. I know they've done due diligence. However, does that mean that he would not consider a need filled if he is to be added and you still have a need? That I possibly kind of see as their modus of operandi here. I think it's just modus operandi. I don't think there's an of there.
I got no idea. So go for it. Say it with confidence and we will believe you. So go for
it. So Matt, I agree. Like you have to have a guy that can go ahead and create shots on the perimeter because Jeremy Fears, he's not going to be dropping shots from deep. Not this year, at least. He works tirelessly at it, but that's just not going to be his thing this year. Jaden Akins can shoot it from deep. Inconsistent, but he can shoot it from deep. Yeah. He is not going to be breaking guys down off the dribble at the perimeter with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, going ahead and getting you 2, or I guess 3. But he's just also hasn't really developed really a blow by. In transition, he's explosive, but not really in the half court. He's not your answer when the offense is stagnating for 4 minutes. Xavier Booker would be the other perimeter guy. He is a spot up shooter. You don't want him dribbling out there and creating his own shot either. So really, if you add Trey Townsend and not another wing, you essentially kind of, as you touched on it, you have last year's roster, but with no Tyson Walker. And that is very, very, very concerning. So you have to add another wing, and especially somebody that can score off the dribble for this whole thing to work. But if they do that and you add Trey Townsend, I think it's a great offseason.
And like when it comes to, and we're going to lean in close here. We're just going to say this quietly because we don't want to upset people.
No, you don't want anyone to hear.
When it comes to like last year's roster and this year's roster, I made hey, you're just swapping out Malik Hall for Trey Townsend. Malik Hall's shooting numbers were substantially better. Right. Look, again, I'll say for a 4th time right now, Trey Townsend, great player. That was pretty cool that he had 30 points against North Carolina State. You think Tom's going to let him shoot 25 times, though, like he did against North Carolina State or Illinois? Awesome, 19 points. You think Izzo's going to let him get 18 shots off like he did against Illinois? Or, hey, Ohio State, 17 points. It's a pretty good start to the season on 16 shots.
Good points.
Not every game was like that. Right. Not every game was like that. Xavier, when he had 28, 18 shots. Like that now that's the field goal percentage that we're looking for here. But like
the counterpoint I would have, though, is that he goes into those games with the opponent knowing he is the guy.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Still goes ahead and with Horizon League teammates puts points on the board. But I do hear you for sure that you take a guy who needs 20 shots to go ahead and hit a certain total, and you, common sense, you change that to 12 shots. He's not going to score as many points.
Correct.
That's just how that works. So
I said that for two reasons, just to like show that like, and you could also look this up on Torvik too, like his lawn twos and at the rim, his finishing wasn't as good as Malik Hall, whatever. But I also just want to level set too with the fan base here. Like we're not gonna get 22 points a game from Trey Townsend. Most likely, sure, he could have the game, of course, occasionally where he goes and pops off for 20, but I would not expect like just those numbers to plug in immediately here. I just want to get everyone on the same page. I think most of us are aligned, but just want to hammer that home.
I think him having more capable teammates around him, like I get those guys beat Kentucky, but like it's not the same thing. So I think that'll help, but like you said, like it'll kind of also offset by a lack of volume. So I wouldn't anticipate a huge dip, but you're not just getting a 20-point per game scorer, adding him in and being like, what's the problem? Why are you guys not just all aboard a 20-point per game scorer? That's not necessarily how that would work. I agree. So I guess my only other thoughts on the portal, just because I guess I should mention them. Like I said, dead period, Thursday to Thursday. After that, because right now there's the Final Four this weekend, and then the coaches convention, and they don't want any contact then, but or I should say any visits then. But so then you're looking at Thursday and onwards, visits can resume. So Michigan State had some Zooms this past week with a handful of guys. We'll see which of those they can get on visits. I know Javon Hadley had mentioned that he was looking to make a decision soon. I kind of heard that he was at Iowa State after the series of Zooms he had between Michigan State and Iowa State. We'll see if he commits during this dead period, or if not, then hopefully Michigan State can have him on campus on Thursday or after Thursday. But that's kind of the procedure. Is they did all their Zooms and stuff, got those out of the way this past week, and now they'll be hopefully looking to schedule some in-person visits after the dead period.
So you're saying that MSU has reached out to players other than Javon Hadley?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Unequivocally, I can say that they reached out to multiple players outside of Javon Hadley.
Look at this. Look at this nugget bomb over here from JT. That is what I'm talking about, man. So I'm not going to pry every name out of you because I'm sure that's very sensitive as far as the information there. But that is comforting to know.
You could have waterboarded out of me.
How far away do you live? 20 minutes away? Okay, yeah. By 11:15, I'll see how honest of a sentence that is. Yeah, that's right. Just me and a Gatorade bucket of water, just getting ready to get some names out of you. So no, that's honestly good to know though. Like that because. Look, I mean, hey, I know a lot of fans out there are a little nervous as to why it's so quiet, and I say that because I am one of those fans, JT.
Right.
I'm like, I'm reaching out to.
And not only have they done actual like formal extended Zooms with multiple guys, there's also other guys that have by now gone elsewhere, who they did a deep dive into, and then kind of decided not to go after. It wasn't just them sitting around looking at the walls. And just being like, well, we talked to 3 guys, and those are the only 3 guys we scouted, and we don't even know who else is in the portal. It's not one of those things. So, like your Terrence Edwards of the world that are ending up at Louisville, that was not by MSU being like half-hearted or not even looking into him type of thing. Now, I don't know the reasons for some of the guys that they didn't look at, but it's not because of a ignorance or I guess just not knowing that they're out there, and they looked into a lot of guys that have gone elsewhere too.
So when Izzo was like Zooming with Bronny James, do you think LeBron was on those calls or no?
But LeBron was sitting with Izzo in person, and then Bronny was on the other side.
Got it. Okay, that's right. Okay, fascinating. That's cool, man. Were you able to sit in on that too, or no? Is that just
but I was on the Bronny James side, so.
Wow, fascinating, man. You are well traveled. So okay, That's cool. Do you think Bronny James and Townsend can coexist together on the court? Do you have like projected
Maybe
splits on that or no?
they could, but then my concern is like when you also add Donovan Clingan,
Yeah,
how
that's a
that
good
kind of
point.
fits together. And
There's only
yeah, I
one
think it's
ball.
tricky.
There's only one ball.
This is
Right?
true. This is true.
That is very tough.
Yeah. And then you add Keontae Goodwin and suddenly things are really off the rails. So
yeah. Oh man, good callback. I got no comeback for that one. That's a good one. Keontae Goodwin. Wow. Go ahead and mark that off your bingo card right there. Well, we did it. No. Oh no. I'm glad we were able to sneak in that breaking news that MSU actually has Bronny James on campus right now at the end of the show. That's good. Do you think he goes to another college in all seriousness, or do you think it is just two-way street for him?
I think it has to.
It has to.
There's only so far that nepotism can take you. I think he's a good player. Like in the McDonald's All-American game, he's one of the better players there. But
he's fine. He's fine.
It's not time yet to go up to the NBA.
No. But when has that ever been an issue for like some top flight recruits like lately? You know, I mean, I don't like. I get that the whole G League Ignite has disintegrated, but I don't know. This is going to be a big moment for nepotism to see how far you can truly. Yeah, and again, I'm not saying like the kid has like the skills of me out there, you know, like the kid can play basketball at a rotational power 6 pace, but yeah, that's
right.
Kind of about it. So,
yeah.
Good luck to him.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not a monster. I'm not rooting against him, but like
he works hard.
Yeah.
He's not just going off his dad's name, but
sure,
the mock draft industry and things of that. It's not ideal, and yeah, like as Austin says in the chat here, he did have open heart surgery before the season started. But my thing goes more so back to not how he played this year, but more so how this is kind of what everyone expected, even when he was a recruit before he had any heart issues.
Yeah,
and there was nothing wrong with that. I just thought he was a 3-year player, and the mock draft industry didn't want that to be the case because they wanted to write him in his most recent and their most recent mocks. His dad obviously didn't help necessarily. I like LeBron for the most part, actually, but when he went ahead and he was like, just let the kid be a kid, stop putting pressure on him. This is the man that was saying that he wanted to play with him in 2 years. And that was kind of just, I don't know.
Well, also said he was better than some current NBA players. Like, look, if you don't think I'm not going to gas my kid up throughout his, athletic career, whether that ends at, high level D1 or whether that ends in high school, like me, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. But like, whoo, saying that he's a little better than some NBA players, I might be flying too close to the sun here. I hope it all works out. Like, I truly do hope it all works out. Like, I'm not a hater. Like
I need Bronny to be in college for 4 years just so that keeps getting us more and more LeBron. Because what is he shooting like 44% from 3 this year? He's shooting better than Steph Curry, and Steph's not even having a bad shooting year.
No. For the first like 14-ish years of LeBron's career, like I was a bona fide hater. Like I was like, oh, I hate this guy. And then like just one day, I'm just like, what was I was wasting time doing that. This guy is the single greatest basketball player of all time. And no, I will not even have the debate with anyone else. I'm not going to waste anyone's time. Like, this guy is greatness personified year after year after year. I remember as a young Pistons fan watching him on the Cavs and being like, well, luckily he's only going to be this good for another, 5 years or something like that. That turned into 20 years pretty quick. This guy is unstoppable. Yeah. So, as we're, talking about Bronny, it's like, hey, well, you better grab this two-way quick because his dad only has another year left. Does he? He could probably do this for another 6 years. I'm sure it's hell on his body, but man, he doesn't show it in the stat line. He doesn't show it when he's playing out there. This guy is an iron horse.
It'll be a seamless transition when Draymond retires and he's on TNT for 5 years, and then sixth year in the retirement, Draymond comes to be the coach at MSU, and then LeBron joins him as the assistant straight out of his playing days. And then Bronny's here as a video coordinator, and the whole Clutch Sports mafia can reunite at Michigan State. Xavier Booker can come along too in some sort of capacity if he's not in the NBA.
This is great.
I think the big thing that is interesting about USC right now is not even just Bronny James; it's their link to Eric Musselman from Arkansas at very, very credible levels.
Yeah.
And I know that Musselman's from Southern California. I know that USC it should be easy to recruit at if you're not incompetent.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Like there's got to be better jobs you hold out for if you're Eric Musselman. I don't think he's ever going to get a
Palm
job like
trees
at
are nice
Kentucky.
though.
Yeah,
I don't
that's true.
know.
That's
Palm
true.
trees are very nice. It's nice
That
to
would
go
be
home
that would
too.
be interesting because that's a Big Ten opponent right there.
Yeah.
Big Ten's getting better there.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the coach that Washington has hired, to be honest. We'll see if Wisconsin ever moves on from Greg Gard. Just gotta hope that if that happens, if you're a Michigan State fan, that TJ Otzelberger doesn't get that call. I would say it's a much, much better program than Wisconsin right now today. It depends on what Otz thinks, how much of that is because of him. Because Iowa State wasn't doing very well in between the Fred Hoiberg and TJ Otzelberger eras. So if that's just fully artificially inflated by Otz himself, why can't he go ahead and take a job where it's a little easier to recruit? So I don't know. I think we'll see. The Big Ten's not getting any easier. Dusty May obviously coming in from Florida Atlantic. As we've talked about in the past, I think he doesn't get enough credit for winning 20 games 4 times at Florida Atlantic. I think he gets too much credit for his Final Four run. But I think at the end of the day, Michigan's better than it was. Than when Juwan Howard was there. I think they're going to be competent. I think they're going to get some nice portal pieces. And I don't know if he will ever win a Big Ten regular season title, but I also don't think they'll probably be in the bottom 8 as long as Dusty May's here. So Big Ten's getting harder and harder. So as Tom Izzo was saying on the Jack Ubling show today, he said part of the reason he's still coaching is because he wants that second. And he said he's not going to the coaching convention for the first time in years because he's going to stay back and he's going to evaluate what his program needs, how to kind of get back to the level where they need a second. And we'll see. We will see what happens. We will see what moves they have up their sleeves, what assistants they'll hire, what portal candidates, hopefully plural, they go ahead and land. And either way, I'm sure you and I will be talking about them at great lengths in future episodes. So with that, appreciate everyone joining. Appreciate everyone interacting in the chat. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like. Go ahead and spread the word to your fellow Michigan State fans, especially those that are sick enough to be listening 41 minutes in for Keontae Goodwin Nuggets. And with that, we will see you next week on the SD4L show.
Go Green.